Border Update, February 2024. This video will provide an update about what is currently happening at the border and will cover the following topics: CBP 1, Transit Ban, Crossing the Border Without Permission. CBP 1. As of May 2023, the only way to cross the border in order to seek asylum is by using an application called CBP 1. The CBP 1 application is a mobile application that is managed by the U.S. government and is used to request an appointment to enter the U.S. There are a small number of exceptions that are made for very specific cases, but for the majority of people, CBP 1 is the only option for crossing the border. To request an appointment to cross the border using CBP 1, you must download the application onto your phone, register the details for yourself and each family member you are traveling with, and request an appointment every day until you receive notice that you have received an appointment with a date and time for when you are scheduled to cross the border. For more information on how to fill out the CBP 1 application, please see our step-by-step CBP 1 instructional videos. Receiving an appointment via CBP 1 only grants you permission to enter the U.S. It is not the same as being granted asylum or any other legal status in the U.S. In order to be able to live and work legally in the U.S. after crossing the border, you will have to go through a court process to seek asylum or another form of immigration status. There is no way to know how long you may have to wait for a CBP 1 appointment. Some people only wait a few days, while other people wait for months. Sometimes the application has issues that make it difficult to use. Unfortunately, neither Al Otro Lado nor any other organization has control over these issues as the application is managed by the U.S. government. Border officials have been rejecting almost everyone who shows up at a port of entry without a CBP 1 appointment, even if they can show that they are experiencing a hardship that makes it extremely difficult or impossible to use the CBP 1 process. Even though turning away asylum seekers like this is a violation of U.S. immigration law, if you show up at a port of entry without an appointment, it is most likely that you will be turned away. Transit ban. Since May 2023, a new rule has come into place called the transit ban. Important: this rule will only affect people who cross without an appointment, such as crossing by river or climbing the wall, who are not from Mexico. If you cross with an appointment, such as through CBP 1, or if you are from Mexico, this rule will not apply to you. Under the transit ban, an individual who enters the U.S. without an appointment will not be eligible for asylum if they traveled through another country on the way from their home country to the U.S. border. For example, if someone from Guatemala traveled through Mexico to arrive at the U.S. border, they would be considered ineligible for asylum because they traveled through another country on their way to the U.S. Because Mexicans have not traveled through another country to arrive at the U.S. border, Mexicans are not subject to the transit ban, but it applies to all other nationalities. Unaccompanied minors, children under the age of 18 traveling without their parent or legal guardian, are also not affected by this rule. There are technically other exceptions to this rule according to the law. However, the way the government has been applying these exceptions has not been consistent. The ban might not apply to people who crossed without permission due to a medical emergency, crossed without permission due to extreme danger, crossed without permission after applying for asylum in another country but that case was denied. No one in their group speaks English, Spanish, or Haitian Creole. Even if you meet one of these criteria, it is not guaranteed that the government will exempt you from the transit ban if you cross without an appointment. If the government applies the transit ban to your case, you will not be eligible for asylum in the U.S. Crossing the border without permission. Crossing the border without permission refers to people who cross the border by crossing a river, climbing the wall, or any other unofficial way of crossing the border without an appointment or permission from U.S. immigration authorities. Crossing the border without permission has always been risky, as it can be physically dangerous and can have legal consequences as well. Here are a few things you should know if this is something you are considering. Detention. People who cross without permission are more likely to be detained. Immigration detention centers are like prisons, and if you are detained, you will be treated as if you were a criminal. People in detention centers have very little access to medical care or legal assistance. Detained people have limited access to phone usage, and it typically costs money to make phone calls. The food and sanitation is typically bad, and treatment from guards is often abusive. If you are detained, you could be detained for just a few days, or you could be detained indefinitely for the entirety of your legal case, which can last months or years. Family separation. Recently, U.S. immigration has been holding most people who cross without permission in the Tijuana-Mexicali area in outdoor encampments on the U.S. side of the border. The government has not been providing food, water, shelter, or medical care to these encampments. Nonprofit organizations such as Al Otro Lado have been assisting with providing some of these necessities, but these encampments are dangerous and people are living outside in very harsh conditions. We have seen a high rate of family separation happening when people are processed out of these encampments. Oftentimes, spouses are separated from one another, or other adult family members are separated. Sometimes the separated family member is sent to a detention center or is held for a longer period of time in the encampment. Title VIII processing. Title VIII is a policy that has been in place since May 2023. Under Title VIII, if an individual cannot prove that they may be eligible for asylum, they can be deported, which carries a 5-year ban on returning to the U.S. If an individual does return, they can be criminally prosecuted for illegal re-entry. Criminal charges. If you or someone in your group has been deported in the past, it's possible that you could receive criminal charges if you try to cross without permission. Transit ban. If you cross without permission and are from any country other than Mexico, it is likely the previously discussed transit ban will apply to you and you may not be able to apply for asylum. In solidarity, Al Otro Lado.